hours later. 2 hours later. 2 hours later.
Since I was two. Well, this has been a formal issue since 1980. Since I was two. Reporter Deaton, in the South Bend Tribune, dated on March 5th, 2026, shared the perspective of local organizations that have studied the racial school disproportionalities in South Bend and how the proposed committee is a waste of time and resources. It's March. No formal follow-up on this committee. What's the status of the federal consent decree committee? Is it a go or a no? Go or a no? Go or a no? Who's on the committee? What are their credentials in relation to racial disparities with student discipline in public education? What data sets are you using? Who's in charge of naming these data sets? And what data was used to determine that these factors are relevant? How will the data be tracked, collected, and analyzed? It only seems fair and just to the public that a transparent strategic plan of action for the Federal Consent Decree Committee be shared with the public prior to any final reports of your findings being shared.
I want to comment about the article in the newspaper on our committee. I don't know where we're at with that right now, but I do know that committee looking into the racial proponent of the disciplines that would have been given out to people.
Yeah, and I would just like to, echo some of what Mr. Costello was saying also about, the article that was in the paper where people want to know more about the, committee that we're going to have to look at disparity and race and that kind of thing. We are committed to that. I think it's something that we need, and it's meant to comply not just with the mechanics of the consent decree, but fully with the spirit of the consent decree. We have not done a deep dive, a deep study of this type of information previously in this corporation, and I think that's needed. That doesn't mean that's the only thing we'll ever do. That doesn't mean we're not doing anything in response to information we already have, or things that we already know about disparity or bias or any of that. But I do think I don't think anyone has the perfect solution or knows exactly all of the issues that are causing those disparities. And I think that we need to study that's important both for the mechanics and the spirit of making sure we're complying with what the consent decree is supposed to do. And that's, we're moving along. I think we're going to have another public meeting about that at some point.
The board is committed to this, and that we'll have a public work session in March, the end of March, I think.
You sure about that?
We need to schedule it. I'm speaking ahead of when I actually have spoken to the board about a date.